Yeah, and so I think that most people who watch this podcast have figured. I've never talked about this before, but most people I think have figured out that I'm an independent in terms of. I frankly think that like the extremes of all sides of the political spectrum are probably missing the point, right? And so it
Yeah.
gets back to this kind of like the nonpartisan topics though that is fascinating that I think actually everyone agrees, whether it's you're more of a centrist or you're on the extreme ends, is like something like term limits,
Yeah.
right? Where people literally say like, wait a second, should somebody be able to, regardless of their political leanings, enter politics at 25 or 30 and literally do it until they die? Like that seems pretty crazy, especially when you start to think about innovation, the ability to understand technology and the evolution there, fresh ideas. Like, just talk a little bit about those term limits and kind of, what is the right solution? Should there be term limits? How should we think about, those being imposed? Should people be grandfathered in? Should there be things that you could do to maybe get around term limits if you're a really good, kind of governor of the people that you're elected to govern? How do you think about that?
Yeah, that's also a great question. Here in Illinois, especially, I think coming from a deep blue, kind of blue state, both sides are, you have this idea that both sides are kind of just career politician type of mentality, right? And so this term limits, especially in a state like Illinois, is a huge thing because you have so many people that are there for so long. And then from a national perspective, that is happening all across the board. I mean, you're right. People should not be in Congress for 30, 40 years. I mean, this is ridiculous. What kind of real world issues are you solving for the future? When you're looking at things like how do we talk about student debt or new innovative technologies? How are you even having those conversations if the mentality is kind of so, I don't want to say archaic, but it's true. I mean, if they can't even solve real world problems 30 years ago, how are they going to solve it presently and currently in the future? So I'm a huge proponent for term limits. It's an issue that both people from all walks of life, independents, libertarians, Republicans, and Democrats can come to terms with. But the problem why I think it has never been solved is because neither side has wanted to solve it. Because a lot of these people, you look at, career politicians, that is a career for them. When you look at the founders, for example, our founders, they never intended to go to Washington for 30 years. Why? Because they were lawyers, they were farmers, they had their own things going on. They had families back home. And not to say that, politicians don't have their own careers, but by and large, they have made a career out of politics. And so it's more beneficial for them to kind of sit there and stay in and do enough to get reelected and then ultimately get there. What needs to happen, because for so long, I think we've seen, the founders argued that, why don't you vote somebody out of office then if you don't want them to be stuck in there forever, right? Unfortunately, politics has become such a money game. It has become such it rewards the career politicians. It rewards the kind of establishment on both sides. And I'm really excited to kind of be in this new generation of disruption where a lot of these people now on both sides of the aisle, frankly, don't care. They're like, I'm going to step in. I'm going to disrupt it. We saw the disruption in corporate America, and that's the rise of Silicon Valley. And I think we're seeing it in politics now. And so I'm really looking forward to champions from both sides of the aisle saying, look, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to actually pass term limits because we're young, we're millennials, we don't want to be here forever, and let's actually get things done. So I think you're seeing that shift now.